ambulance from the site of the crash up through the rest of the Nürburgring and then back down to Adenau. And there, where the accident was, just 1 kilometer before it, was the Breitscheid exit, which puts...
August 1st, 1976. Niki Lauda's Ferrari slams into the barriers at 140 miles per hour, bounces back into traffic and erupts into flames. For 55 seconds, he's trapped inside that inferno. Conscious at first, then slipping away as toxic smoke fills his lungs. The doctors who see him call for a priest. They're all certain he'll die. 42 days later, having missed just 2 races, he's back on the grid fighting for the World Championship. What happens next changes Formula One forever. Years later, Lauda would reflect, "I was as much remembered for my accident as for my driving. But that's fine. It showed people what we drivers really risk." This is the story of a man who came back from the brink of death to race. To understand what happened at the Nürburgring, you need to know who Niki Lauda really was. This wasn't just any driver. This was a calculating Austrian who approached racing like a chess master approaches the board. By 1976, Lauda had already proven himself. World champion in 1975, with 12 Grand Prix victories under his belt, and a reputation for being brutally honest about everything: the car, the track, his competitors, himself. While other drivers relied on instinct and bravado, Lauda relied on data and precision. His driving style was methodical perfection. No wasted movements, no unnecessary risks, just pure efficiency. He'd find the fastest line through a corner and hit it exactly the same way, lap after lap, until his competitors cracked under the pressure of his consistency. "I never drove to be spectacular," Lauda once said. "I drove to win championships." And it worked. Entering the German Grand Prix in 1976, he was demolishing the field, with 5 wins in the first 9 races, and a comfortable 26-point lead in the championship. His biggest rival was James Hunt, the British playboy who represented everything Lauda wasn't. Where Lauda was calculated, Hunt was instinctive. Where Lauda was reserved, Hunt was flamboyant. The media loved this contrast, but Lauda didn't care about media narratives. He cared about one thing: winning that second world championship. By August 1976, it looked like a foregone conclusion. Behind the scenes, a fierce battle was brewing. At the Spanish Grand Prix, James Hunt took a decisive victory on the track, only to be disqualified by officials who found his car was too wide. The win was initially awarded to Lauda, but McLaren immediately launched an appeal. This legal battle would drag on for months, a microcosm of the intense rivalry that was now unfolding not just on the asphalt, but in the halls of power and law. In a crucial twist, McLaren's appeal was ultimately successful in September 1976, reinstating Hunt as the winner of the race. With every protest, every point, and every controversial ruling, the personal stakes grew higher, and the championship became a bitter fight for a single title. Then came the Nürburgring. The Nürburgring Nordschleife, a 14.2-mile ribbon of terror winding through the German countryside. It was the longest circuit on the calendar, with over 1,000 feet of elevation change. It was nicknamed the Green Hell by 3-time world champion Jackie Stewart for good reason. This track had already claimed too many lives, and Niki Lauda knew it. 3 days before the German Grand Prix, Lauda did something unprecedented. He called a meeting of the Grand Prix Drivers Association and stood before his fellow competitors with a stark message. "This track is too dangerous," he said, his Austrian accent cutting through the room. "The safety barriers are inadequate. The medical facilities are nowhere near sufficient. The circuit is too long for proper marshalling. We should boycott this race." You'd expect them to listen to the championship leader, the man who'd proven his judgment time and again. Instead, they laughed, called him soft, questioned his courage. When the hands went up to vote, it was a brutal rebuke. The exact tally is lost to time, but the message was clear. Even his own Ferrari teammate Clay Regazzoni voted against him. In a room full of his peers, Niki Lauda stood completely and utterly alone. "If we race here tomorrow, someone is going to die," Lauda said, with his voice steady and matter-of-fact. It wasn't dramatics. It wasn't fear. It was Niki Lauda doing what he always did, calculating risk based on available data and reaching a logical conclusion. The FIA ignored him. The teams dismissed him. The media painted him as a prima donna, afraid of a little danger. But Lauda wasn't scared. He was intelligent. And intelligence told him the Nürburgring was a death trap. So, he got in his Ferrari and prepared to prove them wrong. August 1st, 1976. Race day at the Nürburgring. Hunt took the pole, and Lauda starts from second position, his red Ferrari 312 T2 gleaming under the German sun. Lap 1 goes according to plan. Lauda settles into third place, running his typical calculated race. But something feels off with the car's handling. Ever the perfectionist, he makes a quick pit stop to change tyres, a precautionary measure that probably saved his life by giving him fresher rubber for what was about to happen. Lap 2. Lauda's running third again, finding his rhythm on the fresh tyres, when disaster strikes at a left-hand corner called Bergwerk. Nobody knows exactly what happened in that split second. Some say it was a suspension failure, others point to a setup issue, but what we know is that Lauda's Ferrari suddenly snaps right without warning. No time to react, no time to think, just physics taking over at 140 miles per hour. The car slams into the barriers and bounces back into the racing line like a deadly pinball. Brett Lunger, the American driver in a March Ford, comes around the corner at full speed with nowhere to go. He plows straight into Lauda's Ferrari. The fuel tank explodes instantly. Lauda's car becomes a rolling crematorium, flames shooting 30 feet into the air. The cockpit fills with fire and toxic smoke from burning fuel, rubber, and fiberglass. For the first few seconds, Niki Lauda is conscious, trying desperately to free himself from his jammed safety harness. Then, the toxic fumes overwhelm him. The man who had calculated every risk, who had warned everyone about this exact scenario, loses consciousness as his face begins to melt. He's trapped in that hell for less than a minute before 4 heroes risk everything to save him. While Lauda lies unconscious and dying in that burning Ferrari, 4 drivers make split-second decisions that define the true spirit of motorsport. Brett Lunger, the same man whose car just collided with Lauda's, doesn't hesitate for even a second. He's out of his car and running straight into those flames. Arturo Mazzario, the Italian veteran, arrives next, reaching into the inferno with his bare hands to grab Lauda's helmet and shoulders. Guy Edwards and Harold Ertl helped coordinate the rescue effort, while Arturo Mazzario pulls Lauda's unconscious body clear of the wreckage. These 4 men, in the middle of a race with their own championships at stake, drop everything to save a competitor. 55 seconds after impact, they extract Lauda from that burning Ferrari. He's unconscious, barely breathing, and what they see will haunt them forever. His helmet has partially melted to his head. His face is unrecognizable, his racing suit is burned through to the skin. But he's alive, barely. Lauda would never forget what these men did for him. Arturo Mazzario saved my life, he said years later. He reached into the fire when he didn't have to. That's something you never forget. The brotherhood of motorsport they demonstrated that day is a testament to the special bond between racers. The helicopter rushes Lauda to a nearby hospital with serious burns on his head and hands. When the doctors see him, they immediately understand the gravity of the situation. This isn't just about burns, this is about survival. Third-degree burns cover 40% of his body. His face is completely unrecognizable, his right ear is gone, his eyelids are burned off. But the worst damage is internal. Nearly a minute of breathing superheated toxic fumes has destroyed his lungs and poisoned his blood. The medical team gives him a 20% chance of survival. For 3 days, Lauda drifts between life and death. His body fights wars on multiple fronts: burns, infections, lung damage, blood poisoning. The F1 world holds its breath. The championship becomes irrelevant as everyone simply hopes this man will live. On the 3rd day, with Lauda's condition still critical, a priest arrives to administer last rites. His wife Marlene is told to prepare for the worst. Even James Hunt, his championship rival, visits the hospital. When he sees what remains of his friend and competitor, he breaks down crying. This has transcended racing. It's about pure human survival now. But Niki Lauda is nothing if not stubborn. Slowly, agonizingly, he begins to fight his way back. The burns start to heal. His lungs begin to clear. His blood chemistry stabilizes. 6 weeks after the accident, against every medical recommendation and his family's desperate pleas, Lauda makes an announcement that shocks the world. He's going back racing. September 12th, 1976, Monza, Italy, the Italian Grand Prix. Niki Lauda has missed exactly 2 races, the Austrian Grand Prix and the Dutch Grand Prix, while recovering from injuries that should have killed him. When he walks into the Ferrari garage, the scene is surreal. His face is a patchwork of scars and grafted skin. His right ear is missing. His eyelids don't close properly, causing his eyes to constantly water. Blood seeps through the bandages under his helmet. Other drivers are shocked. The media is stunned. Even his own mechanics question whether this is safe or sane. But Lauda doesn't care about safe, and he certainly doesn't care about sane. He cares about one thing: that championship everyone thought was lost. The qualifying session becomes something almost supernatural. A man who was clinically dead 6 weeks prior is throwing his Ferrari around Monza at 180 miles per hour. He qualifies 5th, not bad for someone who shouldn't even be alive. Race day arrives, and 100,000 Italian fans are on their feet before the race even starts. They know they're witnessing something that shouldn't be possible. The green flag drops, and Lauda does what he always does. Races smart. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. Just pure, calculated speed. He moves up to fourth, then third. The crowd goes absolutely insane. Lauda isn't racing for victory. He's racing for points, to keep his championship hopes alive. Every completed lap is a victory. Every gained position is miraculous. Every scored point is proof that death couldn't stop him. He finishes fourth. 3 crucial points. Enough to keep the championship fight alive. When he climbs from that car, blood still seeping through his helmet, the entire paddock erupts in applause. Drivers, mechanics, journalists, everyone is clapping because they've witnessed more than a race result. They've seen the greatest comeback in the history of sport. Lauda's return completely reshapes the championship battle. Hunt, who had been steadily closing the gap during Lauda's absence, now faces the psychological pressure of racing against a man who had literally come back from the dead. The remaining races became pure theatre. Canada, Hunt wins, Lauda fights to 8th place. United States, Hunt wins again, while Lauda manages a crucial 3rd-place finish. Going into the final race in Japan, Lauda still held a narrow lead, with just a 3-point advantage over Hunt. October 24th, 1976. Mount Fuji, Japan, the Japanese Grand Prix. And this is where Niki Lauda makes the most controversial decision of his career. It's raining, like a complete monsoon. The track is flooded, visibility is essentially zero, and conditions are honestly dangerous as hell. Sound familiar? After 2 laps in these impossible conditions, Lauda pulls into the pits and retires from the race. His explanation is simple and direct. My life is worth more than a championship. The crowd boos him. The media crucifies him. Even some of his own team members question his courage. But Lauda doesn't care about their opinions. He's already proven his courage in the most definitive way possible. I had already died once for this sport, he would later explain. I wasn't going to do it again for a championship that I could win another year. Hunt stays out in those impossible conditions and manages to finish 3rd.
Congratulations, James. Fantastic. Thank you. Did we really win?
It's enough to win the championship by 1 point, the closest margin in F1 history at that time. The history books record that James Hunt won the 1976 World Championship, but they missed the most important part of the story. Niki Lauda didn't lose anything that day in Japan. He won something far more valuable. By retiring from that race, by choosing life over glory, he completed a transformation that had begun in that burning Ferrari at the Nürburgring. He had proven that you could be brave and intelligent, fast and careful, a champion and a survivor all at the same time. Before Lauda's accident, Formula One was essentially a death sport. Drivers died regularly. Multiple fatalities every season were considered normal. Safety was an afterthought, and the prevailing attitude was, if you can't handle the danger, find another job. Lauda changed all of that. His accident, his survival, his comeback, and yes, even his retirement in Japan forced Formula One to confront its own mortality. The Nürburgring Nordschleife was removed from the Formula One calendar, and within 2 years the sport had mandatory medical helicopters, better barriers, improved fire suppression systems, and enhanced driver safety equipment. While the Nordschleife never hosted another Grand Prix, a new, safer circuit at the Nürburgring opened in 1984, ensuring the legendary name would remain a part of F1 history. Lauda's 55 seconds of hell saved countless lives in the decades that followed. And personally, Lauda proved his point in the most definitive way possible. He came back in 1977 and won his 2nd World Championship. In 1984, he won his 3rd, becoming only the 3rd driver in history to win titles with different teams. His relationship with Ferrari, however, had been fractured by his decision to retire in Japan. His 2nd championship was won under a cloud of tension and distrust, with him racing alongside Carlos Reutemann, a driver brought in as his replacement, whom Lauda openly disliked. This 2nd title was not a celebration of dominant speed, but a gritty, methodical victory of consistency. The moment he had enough points to secure the championship, Lauda made his final definitive statement. He walked away from the team that he felt had betrayed him, vacating his seat and leaving for good. The animosity did not last forever, however, and a quiet mutual respect grew between Lauda and Enzo Ferrari himself. This was symbolized by Enzo sending Lauda the last ever Ferrari 288 GTO, a rare supercar, as a peace offering in 1986. Then, in 1993, Lauda formally returned to Ferrari in a consulting role. His sharp intellect and experience were instrumental in the team's resurgence as he helped to recruit key figures like team boss untold and driver Michael Schumacher, setting the stage for one of the most dominant eras in Formula One history. Those scars on his face became his trademark. He never hid them, never got plastic surgery to minimize them. They were his badge of honor, proof that he had stared death in the face and emerged victorious. What Lauda understood, and what his story teaches us, is that sometimes the greatest victory isn't crossing the finish line first. Sometimes it's simply crossing the line alive, with your principles intact and your humanity preserved. Lauda's enduring legacy is enshrined in every modern F1 car. The halo device that saved Lewis Hamilton at Monza in 2021, and the improved fire-resistant materials that helped Romain Grosjean survive his terrifying 2020 crash in Bahrain, all exist because of the lessons learned from Niki Lauda's 55 seconds of hell. Lauda was more than a champion. He was the ultimate survivor, and his fight for life made racing safer for generations to come. If this story moved you, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. What's the most courageous decision you've ever seen in motorsport? Subscribe for more incredible F1 stories about the legends who shaped the sport.